Hello guys, TKG's here for your comfortable LostArk life. In this video, I'd like to cover one of his class engraving of the Summoner. As the latest balance patches brought small changes of the Summoner, so I thought it'd be great to share some of those infos for your LostArk journey. Now follow me, I'll show what I need. Let's start with the basic of this video. Class engraving I'm going to cover in this video is Master Summoner. Master Summoner is a class engraving that are actually utilizing the identity as our main DPS skills. Actually, Summoner is a class that existed from the 2017 September, so it has some old mechanism than the other classes in the LostArk. And of course, it has some little unfair skill composition, structure. Well, back to the main part. Unlike the other classes in the LostArk, use the identity as an additional boost or stance transform. Master Summoner does use the identity as her backbone DPS skills. Well, let's talk about those details later on this video. After the balance patches that was live on the March 6th, Master Summoner got some maybe boost or got some modification of the skill circulation. In KO expression, finally, the Master Summoner got rid of the shackles of the pre-work things. Patch note of the Master Summoner was like this. For a short explanation, Master Summoner got removed on the self-buff skill or tripod on the LC, Sticky Moss Swamp, but instead, Summoner skill's own damage got some buffed on this update. So talking about the previous version combo, you have to do it like this, right? Like supply the identity, shoot the Ikea, and then lay down the self-buff for the full DPS and circulations. And sometimes you have to use the Ancient Spear to simply supply the identity. But as the damage itself was got better, the pre-work of the self-buff things are now no longer needed for the full damage performance. In short, Summoner got free hand on the skill circulations. So for now, in the skill composition, most of the Summoner these days now get rid of the L seat, which the previous self-buff skill, and choose from the Flash Explosion, Release Wheel, and the last Marine. Each skill has a good and bad in the actual gameplay, but commonly right now, Master Summoner does use the Marine due to the reason is that Marine has a high damage than the Flash Explosions and the Release Wheel. Flash Explosion and the Release Wheel is okay to use it, but personally, I do recommend use the Marine for the stable adrenals and the damage performance. Also, because of the no pre-work and the damage increase, Jahia can be utilized on the damage circulations. And of course, Jahia can be the great supplement of the Summoner's survivabilities. As the Summoner has only one evade skill, mostly space, using Jahia will grant you the shield, but also can do great on the damage performance too. Especially as the Jahia is an identity skill, so it has an immune on the incoming attack. And also it has a shield, so you can ignore the incoming attack in short period of time and carry on your attack. But the build of the Summoner was quite not much different than the previous version, so currently Summoner build is categorized into two parts. But as the backbone of the Summoner still comes from the identity, so the specialization stat is a base foundation of the Summoner right now. So personally, not many things were changed after the balance patch. Maybe still it is same with the previous build. Oh, just like the previous video, first variation of the Summoner is a spec build with Swiftness. Actually, Swiftness is great to play for the light players or maybe great for the beginners too. As the Summoner has a little unfair evade skills as I mentioned in the beginning, going directly to the critical might be a little bit burden to your gameplay. And sometimes, especially in the high tiered raid like in the Ivory Tower or the Thair Mine, you might be a little bit hard to evade the incoming attack if you aren't that used to the Summoner itself. And gotta be honest, even for the players who are used to the Summoner are a little bit hard to evade every incoming attack if you are using the critical as your substat. So Swiftness is great to use if you aren't used to the character. But certainly the Swiftness has a certain ceiling than the critical sub build. So I suggest you to use the Swiftness for a while as alt or to get experienced and then upgrade to the critical after you decided to move up to the next level with your Summoner. And the other build is definitely the critical build. Actually, the critical build is truly better than the Swift build. And I forgot to mention for the stable skill, I mean identity circulation, you need at least more than 1650 specialization stat to your Summoner. Otherwise, you need to little bit wait for the full cycle. I mean, you'll have to wait a little bit until you get the full identity. Kinda weird, but there are not many changes on our build so far. Mostly, it is still fixed and has a certain differences on the skill composition due to the patches are actually done on the skill structure. So most of the differences are focused on the skill composition and the build. Additionally, for the end build, you can have this variation. For the ceiling performance right now, the level 2 Adrenals is quite recommended to use. As the summoner itself was changed or maybe got some boost on the damage itself, you are no longer required doing the pre-work as I mentioned. Also, as the Dahlia can be utilized in the actual gameplay, you can get the quick shield and the push immune at the same time. So you can do the damage dealing with free hand and get more survivability during the raid. More like you can do the damage dealing without moving. But as I mentioned, control can be her best shortage. As the damage performance was increased to interesting or considered level, her movement is still have some bad experience, and you can be felt little unfair. Core mechanic of the summoner is identity angle. As I mentioned in the beginning, right now you don't need that pre-work for the main DPS cycle. You can now supply your identity like before, but you can start your damage dealing without laying down the self-buff skill like the L-Seed. Of course, you still need to use the Sinners for the full damage, but you can less concerned about the self-buff skill than before. Also, you can use the Mariri on your skill composition to stable Adrenals with some decent damage performance. Composition of the summoner can be summarized like this text box. Sinner skills are now narrowed down to 2, but you can have one more option on that empty spot, which with the Mariri, Released Will, Flash Explosion. But commonly right now, I think using the Mariri is the mainstream on most of the summoner. Of course, you can use the Released Wheel as your counter, survival skills which on the second tripod, or you can use the Flash Explosion for keeping your Adrenals. But personally, I think Mariri is the best choice so far. And I think the adjustment or the fixes was quite focused on the summoner skill circulation and removing the pre-work. So in the damage performance, summoner shows great performance as a hitmaster character right now. Skill build of the summoner can be summarized like this text box. Well, actually there's not many things to comment about the summoner skill build so far. More like you can just know by just looking at it. Above all, now the Sinners can be applied like the other characters in the LostArk. No pre-work of the self-buff is like make the summoner unchained, so you can be more comfortable during the DPS circulation. Awakening skill is a Wrath of Background. Well, actually before the patches, summoning Calcium was quite handy on many situations because the chain skill which greatly supplied the identity, but after the balance patches on 2022 August, Calcium identity supply rate got nerfed to 25%. So Wrath of Background is a major awakening skill of the Master Summoner right now. Long casting time is a great disadvantage of the summoner, but some of the casting can be cancelled with some tricks, like the Ancient Spear has a long casting time and the big jump at the end, right? But that jump can be cancelled. Using the casting or just using the skill can cancel that jump. Use the Ancient Spear as normal. Before that jump, using the skill can cancel the jump motion but rain down the spear as normal. So, with this trick, you can use the Ancient Spear but skip the motion and move on to the next skill circulation faster. Dahlia can now do the major part of the damage performance. Before the patches of the summoner, I mean if you wish to show how good a summoner character was like, how much you will do the self-buff Akir. Right now, as the summoner mechanism got changed, or more like the structure of the circulation got changed, so right now, how good a summoner is depends on how much you will supply your identity and using it on the proper level. Back then, more identity supplying doesn't that matters because the main DPS Akir was bind into the self-buff skill circulation. But now the structures got changed. And because of that reason, you can use the Dahlia instead Akir on your damaging circulation. So from now on, you must reduce the identity leak and use the identity well on the right time is the key to the summoner management. So how to stop that identity leak? Well, the answer is simple. You have to use the Synergy, Ancient Spear, and the Akir. Got the point? Back then, more identity doesn't that matters because the identity itself requires attack power buff. But now that chains are gone. So more identity equals more damage. So you need to use the identity as soon as it's filled. So using Synergy and Ancient Spear, Akir will stop the identity supply leak of the Ancient Spear, which are now the core of the summoner management. For other example, if you have both Electric Storm and the Akir at the same time, you have to use the Electric Storm and Akir will reduce the identity supply leak of the Electric Storm. Skill combo of the summoner can be summarized like this text box. Well, actually the skill combo of the summoner is really a reference. You need to use the skill with more flexibility by understanding each specialty of the skill. And literally, you can make one of your own combo. Rough sketch of the summoner skill combo can be like this, but you need to use the skill on flexibility with your own decision. So try to remember this big frame of the summoner and use the skill well on many different situations. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching everyone, and always thanks for your big support. Hope this video was really helped for your LostArk journey. Hope you do well with your summoner with this video. And of course, if you like my videos, hit the sub for more upcoming infos. I'll come back with more useful infos in the next video.